And she pointed out that the camera literally sees time. And the more I thought about what she said, and I applied it to my own fascinations and my own interest in it for work, I mean, you know, it's only in a post-film world where you can conceive of slow motion or fast motion or things running backwards. You know, these are things that people before movies wouldn't have had any idea of or any thought of.
Christopher Nolan, the mastermind behind The Dark Knight and Oppenheimer, has finally revealed the actors he holds above all others. And the list might surprise you. Known for working with some of the greatest talents in Hollywood, Nolan's choices reflect not just star power, but the kind of artistry that defines cinema itself. From legendary icons to modern-day powerhouses, these are the names Nolan believes stand at the very top of the craft. Robert Downey Jr. When Christopher Nolan cast Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, 2023, he handed him a part that could not have been further from the wisecracking charisma audiences had long associated with Tony Stark. As Lewis Strauss, the calculating chairman of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, Downey became the film's hidden antagonist, a man whose ambition and resentment slowly curdle into betrayal. It was a role built not on flamboyance but on control, requiring a subtle layering of charm, insecurity, and cold political maneuvering. Downey delivered with extraordinary precision, crafting a performance that critics quickly hailed as among the finest of his career. For Nolan, who rarely indulges in overstatement, Downey's work was nothing short of revelatory. "Robert is an actor of extraordinary intelligence," he told Time magazine. "He can calibrate a character's arc with such precision that you almost forget he's performing." That calibration is visible throughout Oppenheimer, where Strauss evolves from genial supporter to bitter adversary, his every smile and gesture hinting at motives hidden beneath the surface. Downey's mastery lies in that ability to make duplicity feel organic, his Strauss simultaneously personable and menacing. The decision to entrust Downey with such an intricate role reveals Nolan's deep confidence in his abilities. Though audiences had long celebrated Downey for his magnetic screen presence, Nolan sensed the depth beneath the blockbuster persona. "I always knew there was a lot more to Robert than Tony Stark," he remarked wryly, hinting at years of wanting to collaborate. In Strauss, Nolan found the perfect vessel for that untapped range, and Downey seized the opportunity with a performance stripped of spectacle but brimming with craft. The result was a union of actor and director that showcased both men at their best. Nolan's talent for sculpting morally complex narratives, and Downey's gift for embodying them with razor-sharp intelligence. Together, they proved that reinvention is possible, even for one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars, offering a reminder that great performances often emerge from great trust. Daniel Day-Lewis. Though Christopher Nolan has never directed Daniel Day-Lewis, the actor remains a figure he regularly invokes as a benchmark of cinematic excellence. In interviews, Nolan has referred to Day-Lewis as perhaps the greatest actor of his generation, and he has often singled out There Will Be Blood, 2007, as a landmark performance, one that redefined what modern screen acting could achieve. For a filmmaker so attuned to precision and intensity, Day-Lewis stands as an exemplar of total immersion, the rare performer whose presence can dominate a narrative through sheer commitment to craft. What Nolan admires in Day-Lewis is easy to see: the uncompromising devotion, the refusal to take shortcuts, the willingness to inhabit a character so fully that the line between actor and role seems to vanish. These qualities align seamlessly with Nolan's own philosophy as a director, one defined by meticulous preparation, exacting detail, and a near-obsessive pursuit of authenticity. Where some actors bring spontaneity, Day-Lewis brings absolute transformation, a trait Nolan has often cited as essential to performances that withstand the test of time. It is tempting to imagine what might have been had the two collaborated. Day-Lewis as an older, wearier version of Dom Cobb in Inception, haunted by memory and regret. Or perhaps as a tortured physicist in Interstellar, his obsessive drive channeled into the pursuit of salvation at any cost. Such casting would have fit naturally into Nolan's world, where characters are defined not simply by their actions, but by the psychological burdens they carry. In many ways, Nolan and Day-Lewis are kindred spirits, artists whose methods, methodical, private, bordering on obsessive, speak to a similar pursuit of perfection. That they have never joined forces remains one of cinema's great what-ifs. Yet even in absence, Day-Lewis serves as a guiding star for Nolan, a reminder of the heights performance can reach when discipline and passion converge. For Nolan, citing Day-Lewis is less about lamenting missed opportunity and more about acknowledging the standard by which he measures the actors he does work with. Tom Hardy. Among Christopher Nolan's collaborators, few actors embody the director's love of restraint and suggestion better than Tom Hardy. Hardy thrives in conditions that would seem to limit most performers, transforming restriction into a source of power. In Dunkirk, 2017, for instance, he spends the majority of the film strapped into a cockpit, his face hidden by an oxygen mask, his dialogue reduced to clipped commands. Yet despite these limitations, his RAF pilot becomes one of the film's most moving figures, conveying bravery, sacrifice, and calm determination largely through the flicker of his eyes and the tension in his body language. A similar alchemy occurred in The Dark Knight Rises, 2012, where Hardy took on the role of Bane. Once again, much of his face was concealed, this time behind an elaborate respirator mask that distorted his speech into a bizarre, almost theatrical growl. What could have been alienating instead became unforgettable, thanks to Hardy's commitment to making every gesture, every shift of his gaze, and every cadence of his voice serve a purpose. Bane was physically imposing, yes, but also strangely mesmerizing, a villain who dominated the screen not in spite of the mask, but because of it. Nolan has often praised this gift of Hardy's, telling Empire magazine, "I love working with actors who can use minimalism to maximum effect. Tom is a master at that. His eyes do more work than some actors can do with an entire monologue." That ability to project layers of meaning with the smallest of tools makes Hardy a uniquely powerful presence in Nolan's cinematic world. Where other actors might require dialogue-heavy exposition, Hardy can achieve the same emotional or narrative impact with a glance. In this sense, Hardy is Nolan's modern answer to the stoic archetypes of old Hollywood, the Gary Coopers and Steve McQueens, actors whose silences spoke louder than their words. Yet Hardy adds to this tradition a distinctly contemporary edge. His characters, no matter how physically commanding, are shaped by an introspective intensity that hints at inner conflict. It is this blend of physical power and psychological nuance that makes him not just an actor in Nolan's films, but one of their defining forces. Christian Bale. When Christopher Nolan chose Christian Bale to play Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins, 2005, he was making a decisive break from the character's recent cinematic past. The previous Batman films had leaned into camp, spectacle, and theatrical exaggeration, leaving the role in need of reinvention. With Bale, Nolan found not just a physical presence capable of embodying Gotham's Dark Knight, but also a performer whose intensity could restore emotional weight and psychological realism. Bale's version of Bruce Wayne was not merely a billionaire in a cape, but a haunted man wrestling with trauma, duty, and moral ambiguity. His performance grounded Nolan's sweeping reimagining of the Batman mythos, ensuring that the story's grandiose set pieces never lost touch with a human core. Nolan himself has spoken to Bale's rare ability to anchor even the most ambitious cinematic ideas. Bale brings a kind of emotional credibility that anchors even the most extravagant ideas, he said in 2012. He has this laser-like focus. He disappears into the role. That focus was evident across the Dark Knight trilogy, where Bale's Batman evolved from an angry young man seeking vengeance into a weary hero carrying the weight of his city. His ability to embody both physical ferocity and quiet vulnerability made the films resonate beyond the superhero genre, transforming them into cultural touchstones. Their collaboration extended beyond Gotham. In The Prestige, 2006, Bale delivered one of his most layered performances as Alfred Borden, a magician consumed by rivalry and obsession. The role demanded duplicity, secrecy, and emotional fracture, qualities at the heart of Nolan's fascination with identity and sacrifice. Bale met the challenge with a performance that kept audiences guessing while still drawing empathy, even as his character's choices grew increasingly ruthless. Like many of Nolan's favored actors, Bale excels at conveying the turmoil beneath a composed exterior. His brooding intensity, combined with a fierce commitment to craft, makes him uniquely suited to Nolan's narratives, which so often revolve around fractured men torn between ideals and flaws. For Nolan, Bale provided the emotional spine of two of his most defining works, and for audiences, he redefined what it meant to believe in both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Marlon Brando. Christopher Nolan's filmmaking is often associated with meticulous control and precise planning, yet he has long admired actors who embody the unpredictable, transformative power of classic method acting. At the forefront of that admiration is Marlon Brando, whose work in On the Waterfront, 1954, and The Godfather, 1972, continues to cast a long shadow over modern cinema. Nolan has referred to Brando's performance as Vito Corleone as a kind of world-building in itself, noting how Brando's presence alone could establish an entire narrative universe, a feat few actors have achieved before or since. Brando's approach was famously immersive, sometimes erratic, yet it was always anchored in a pursuit of truth. Nolan recognizes that while he rarely seeks such volatility on set, the lesson Brando imparts transcends technique. He never condescended to the character, Nolan observed. He just became him. That total commitment, the willingness to surrender entirely to the role, is what made Brando revolutionary and what continues to influence generations of actors, including many who have become central to Nolan's films, from Michael Caine to Robert Downey Jr. The director's appreciation is not rooted in mimicry or emulation. Nolan's own style favors structure and precision, but he sees in Brando a model for authenticity, an actor who understands that every choice, no matter how subtle, must serve the reality of the character. Brando's performances, particularly in The Godfather, demonstrate how presence, tone, and small gestures can communicate vast emotional and narrative depth without a single superfluous line of dialogue. This is a principle Nolan carries into his casting and direction, favoring actors capable of suggesting entire emotional worlds with economy and focus. For Nolan, Brando represents more than a cinematic legend. He is a reminder of what is possible when an actor fully commits to inhabiting another life. His revolutionary force lies not in theatrics, but in the intimacy and credibility he brought to the screen, a force that reshaped Hollywood and set a standard for truth in performance. Even in an era of complex visual effects and sprawling narratives, Nolan acknowledges that the foundational power of cinema remains the actor's ability to live authentically within the story, as Brando so effortlessly did. Florence Pugh. Among the younger generation of actors, Florence Pugh has rapidly emerged as one of Christopher Nolan's most promising collaborators. Her breakout in Oppenheimer, 2023, as Jean Tatlock, showcased a presence that was quietly commanding, nuanced, and emotionally resonant, even amid a sprawling ensemble of established stars. Pugh's ability to convey inner life without resorting to grandiose gestures caught Nolan's attention immediately, marking her as an actor capable of inhabiting the kind of morally complex, psychologically intricate roles he favors. Florence is fearless, Nolan told Entertainment Weekly. She's got an old soul and a modern sensibility, She can do in one glance what some actors can't do in a page of dialogue. That combination of instinctive intelligence and emotional dexterity is precisely what makes Pugh such a compelling talent in Nolan's world. She possesses the rare capacity to suggest inner conflict, longing, and moral ambiguity with minimal exposition, a trait that aligns perfectly with the director's signature emphasis on subtlety and interiority. In portraying Tatlock, Pugh navigated the character's passion, vulnerability, and complex relationship with J. Robert Oppenheimer with remarkable economy and precision. Her performance balanced the historical context with a contemporary sensibility, creating a character that felt fully lived in, immediate, and layered. Even in scenes shared with cinematic heavyweights such as Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr., Pugh's presence was never overshadowed. Instead, she enhanced the emotional depth of the ensemble while carving out her own indelible mark. Given her combination of range, intensity, and instinctual understanding of character, it is easy to imagine Pugh becoming a recurring figure in Nolan's future films. She represents the next generation of actors who can carry the weight of his intricate narratives while still providing the subtle emotional complexity that defines his heroes and heroines. In Nolan's evolving gallery of morally nuanced, emotionally intelligent characters, Florence Pugh is poised to occupy a prominent place, ensuring that his cinema continues to be defined not only by vision and spectacle, but by performers who bring it to life with fearless authenticity. Timothy Dalton. Christopher Nolan has long been open about his reverence for the James Bond franchise, citing it as one of the key inspirations behind both his storytelling style and his visual aesthetic. Among the many actors to don the tuxedo, he has repeatedly singled out Timothy Dalton as the one who most closely captured the spirit of Ian Fleming's original creation. To Nolan, Dalton's Bond was not just a suave spy, but a layered, damaged figure. The closest anyone has come to embodying the character from the books, he once remarked. Dalton's brief tenure as 007 in The Living Daylights, 1987, and License to Kill, 1989, marked a sharp departure from the lighter, tongue-in-cheek approach of Roger Moore's era. His Bond was colder, more brutal, and visibly scarred by the violence he both inflicted and endured. Gone was the endless smirk. In its place was a man weighed down by trauma and moral conflict. Though divisive at the time, Dalton's interpretation has since been reappraised as a bold, ahead-of-its-time reimagining of the character. It is little wonder that Nolan, whose films often center on emotionally fractured protagonists, gravitated toward this darker version of the spy mythos. In interviews, Nolan has pointed specifically to License to Kill as a touchstone, crediting it with influencing his vision for Batman in Batman Begins. Just as Dalton's Bond was driven not by charm but by personal vendetta and grief, Nolan's Bruce Wayne was shaped as much by anger and trauma as by altruism. The parallels are striking. Both men operate outside traditional systems of justice, both blur the line between hero and vigilante, and both wrestle with whether vengeance can ever coexist with morality. For Nolan, Dalton's Bond proved that even the most iconic of screen heroes could be stripped down, made raw, and reimagined as psychologically complex figures. It is a philosophy he carried into his own career, building films around characters who are not invincible archetypes, but fallible humans haunted by their choices. Dalton may never have appeared in a Nolan film, but his influence lingers in every morally conflicted hero the director has brought to life. James Stewart. Christopher Nolan's reverence for classic Hollywood is well documented, and among the actors he admires most, James Stewart holds a preeminent place. Stewart's career spanned decades, yet it is his work in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, 1958, that Nolan repeatedly cites as a touchstone for his own storytelling. He has described Stewart's performance as one of the greatest portrayals of psychological torment on screen, praising the actor's ability to inhabit a character who is outwardly relatable while concealing a deep, simmering interior life. What makes Stewart exceptional, in Nolan's eyes, is his mastery of duality. He could embody the everyman, approachable, grounded, sympathetic, while simultaneously hinting at inner darkness, moral ambiguity, or obsession. This layered approach resonates profoundly with Nolan, whose protagonists are rarely straightforward. Whether it is Cobb in Inception or Leonard in Memento, the characters oscillate between normalcy and the shadows within, echoing the delicate balance Stewart maintained on screen. Stewart made audiences trust him, even as they witnessed his gradual unraveling, a skill Nolan has sought to emulate in his own leads. The parallels between Vertigo and Nolan's work are striking. Both Vertigo and Memento explore spirals of memory, identity, and guilt, constructing narratives where the protagonist's perception is as fractured as the reality they navigate. Stewart's haunted gaze, the tension in his posture, and the subtle, almost imperceptible cues of psychological strain provide a template for how Nolan approaches his characters. Complex, human, and perpetually on the edge of collapse. Stewart's genius, then, is not merely in his acting, but in his embodiment of a philosophy Nolan has internalized. Normalcy on the surface, rot beneath. It is the duality of human nature, rendered with empathy, that resonates with the director. By studying Stewart, Nolan learned to build characters whose internal struggles are as compelling as the external ones, creating films that remain psychologically rich and emotionally resonant. In this sense, Stewart is more than inspiration. He is a cinematic touchstone, a reminder of the enduring power of subtlety, nuance, and shadow. Michael Caine. When the subject of Christopher Nolan's most trusted collaborators comes up, the conversation inevitably begins with Sir Michael Caine. Their creative partnership spans nearly 2 decades and 8 films, from Batman Begins in 2005 through to Tenet in 2020. Caine has become more than just an actor in Nolan's films. He is a presence that grounds them, a familiar figure audiences come to expect, and for Nolan himself, a symbol of continuity and good fortune. The director has affectionately called him his lucky charm, a phrase that carries both sentiment and truth, given how often Caine's brief yet memorable performances have left a lasting impact. Nolan has spoken candidly about the unique quality Caine brings to the set. In an interview with Variety in 2020, he marveled at how Caine could take even the simplest of lines and transform them. He comes in and reads the lines. He doesn't improvise, he doesn't add bits, and yet he somehow makes it better than it was on the page, Nolan explained. It's like magic. He elevates everything. That ability to inject gravitas into dialogue without altering a syllable is part of what makes Caine invaluable to Nolan. Whether delivering wise counsel as Alfred in the Dark Knight trilogy, or offering cryptic exposition in Inception, his voice and presence carry a weight that feels both reassuring and profound. For Caine, the respect is mutual. He has often described Nolan as a director cut from the cloth of an earlier era, reminding him of filmmakers who were authoritative but never overbearing. He knows exactly what he wants, Caine once said, and if you give it to him, he moves on. He doesn't fuss. That efficiency, paired with a clear vision, creates an environment where actors can trust the process entirely. It is perhaps why Caine, despite being in his late 80s during their last collaboration, continued to return. Their partnership has become a quiet tradition in modern cinema, one built on trust, admiration, and a shared understanding of craft. For Nolan, Caine remains more than a performer. He is a touchstone of authenticity. And for audiences, his appearances, however brief, serve as a reminder of the enduring bond between a director and the actor he calls his good luck. Cillian Murphy. If Michael Caine represents tradition in Christopher Nolan's cinematic world, then Cillian Murphy has emerged as the director's most compelling lead, the actor who best embodies the inner complexity Nolan so often seeks to explore. Their collaboration began almost by chance, with Murphy stepping into the role of Dr. Jonathan Crane, better known as the villain Scarecrow, in Batman Begins, 2005. What might have been a one-off appearance instead evolved into a professional relationship that stretched across multiple films, with Murphy resurfacing in the Dark Knight trilogy, lending enigmatic presence to Inception as Robert Fisher, and ultimately reaching its peak with his monumental turn in Oppenheimer, 2023. Murphy's work as J. Robert Oppenheimer has been hailed as the performance of a lifetime. Nolan himself, not known for casual superlatives, declared it the best work I've ever seen from any actor. Speaking to LA Bible in 2023, he went further. I've always known since I first met him almost 20 years ago that he is one of the great actors, not just of his generation, but of all time. Such praise underscores the mutual understanding that has grown between the two men, an instinctive creative bond that allows Nolan to craft characters of profound moral ambiguity and trust Murphy to embody them with total commitment. Part of Murphy's brilliance lies in his unique style of acting. He is not a performer who overwhelms with theatrical gestures. Rather, his power radiates inward. He acts from the inside out, his sharp, almost otherworldly features paired with eyes that seem to flicker with secrets, doubts, and calculations the audience can never quite decode. This internalized intensity makes him especially suited to Nolan's stories, which often hinge on characters wrestling with guilt, obsession, or the burden of impossible choices. For Nolan, Murphy has become the perfect vessel for exploring the shadowed interior lives of his protagonists. For audiences, he is the rare kind of lead whose presence feels magnetic even in silence. Together, director and actor have forged a partnership that transformed a supporting villain into one of the defining performances of contemporary cinema. What do you think about the actors that Christopher Nolan especially loves? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.